What's up guys, Kevin here with TLD bringing you my review of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim for the Xbox 360, which is also available on the PS3 and PC. Now it's important to note that for a game like this, there's just so much content to it that it's really hard to be able to fit it all in a shorter review. I'm going to do my best just to kind of distill the few main points that I think are the most important to cover, but I would really recommend checking the game out because really I can't even touch all the little details that make this game so much fun. Now first off with the aesthetics of the game, the graphics look great. They're definitely better on PC, but the console version still looks good. It's just that when you get some of the long distance views, you don't see as much detail as you'd like. However, the soundtrack for it is incredible, and the aesthetics for both villages and races have been done really well. Every major city has its own unique look and style to it, as well as its own little feel. And all the races look a lot better than they did back on Oblivion. There's much more definition to them, they each have their own unique appearance rather than just everyone having the same weird fleshy blob face. Now of course when it comes to this kind of game, one of the most important aspects of it is character creation, because it's all about your character and your story. This game has simplified character creation a lot compared to past games. There are no more stats, races are much less important, it basically just gives you a certain activatable ability and that's about it, as well as some starting skill bonuses. What the game does focus on is that your character has 18 skills, and as you raise any of them, you'll eventually level up. Now where the game does add a new layer of customization is the addition of perks. They kind of had perks back in Oblivion where just whenever you gained a certain skill rank you'd gain a special perk. In this case, all skills now have an associated perk tree, which has many different special abilities and allows you to specialize your style of use for that skill. For instance, conjurers can focus on summoning undead or summoning elementals. Warriors can choose what kind of weapons they focus on. If you use destruction magic, you can focus on an element. It lets you really personalize your character a lot more beyond just simply how high your skill ranks are. As far as the storyline and questing is concerned, the game has a couple different options. There is a main storyline which involves the return of dragons and trying to hunt and kill them all down, as well as a major secondary main quest involving a civil war between two factions, the Imperial Army and a group of rebels in Skyrim. Alongside these two major plotlines are a number of different factions, including the Companions, which are a mercenary guild, the College of Winterhold, which trains mages, as well as a Thieves Guild and the Assassins Guild Dark Brotherhood. And of course one of my favorite new additions, the Bard's College, because making your character a rock star is incredible. Each of these questlines were done really well and they give the character a great feel of how important each one is, and they each have their own strong place within the game's setting. The only issue I had with them is that some of them were really short, especially compared to the quests we saw back in Oblivion and Morrowind. The Mages Guild in particular feels like you go from being a student to Archmage in not even a weekend's time in-game. It's not too big of an issue because this time they also added a lot more side quests related to each faction, so that gives you a way to spend a little more time with that faction, but it still definitely feels a little shorter than we've been used to in other games. In addition to the game's faction quests and the numerous side quests that litter the world, the game also makes use of what's called radiant storytelling. Basically, there are certain special quests that will be formed based on your character's actions. Sometimes it'll be things like basic mercenary work or a certain Thieves Guild mission, but it's always going to be something uniquely handcrafted for your playthrough. It's not going to be the same every time you play, giving each playthrough its own little sense of randomness. Now during these quests, your character's going to be exploring a lot of different dungeons and special areas throughout all of Skyrim, and this is one of the places where I feel the game got a little weaker. The game did a much better job than Oblivion as far as diversifying each and every dungeon. They all do have their own little feel and their own architecture. However, you do come across certain tropes very often. Certain puzzles involving spinning little statues to reveal certain images, or unlocking special doors using little symbols on a claw key, come up very often. You find yourself doing it again and again across several different dungeons. Like I said, structurally they are more varied than they were back in Oblivion and still has a fresh feeling to it. It's just that some puzzles you get a little tired of once you've done them so many times. As for combat in the game, it's very similar to Oblivion, but with enough tweaks and changes that it does feel really new and also a little faster paced. One of the interesting aspects about it is that now both hands are made use of, so instead of just doing something like sword and shield or two-handed sword, you're also able to do things like dual-wield weapons, or cast two different spells, one in each hand. Or even preparing the same spell in each hand to do a special double cast where you have an increased effect, like a larger explosion from a fireball. As with previous Elder Scrolls titles, the game does a really good job of letting you handle situations the way you want to, whether it's being a stealth character, a mage, a fighter, or some combination of the aforementioned. Each of them has their own little strengths, and it never really feels like any particular build is too underpowered. Some builds are stronger than others, particularly enchanting and smithing can allow you to make some ridiculous weapons and armor that can make physical characters a lot more powerful, but that's only if you're really making use of them and exploiting the system a little bit. Otherwise, none of the builds really feels too weak. Mages, thieves, they're always going to be useful. It's just that if you want a power game, physical characters end up having a major strength in the end, especially on higher difficulties. And then one little addition that I do feel is worth mentioning is that from their Fallout series, they kind of gained the lesson of adding companions to the game, although they're not nearly as deep as they were before. Basically, you're able to hire on a companion or get someone to want to fight alongside you, and they'll do that. They'll walk around with you, they can carry some of your equipment, but that's about it. None of them really have any major side quests or backstories or special missions. You're just able able to get someone to like you enough so they'll fight alongside you and carry your stuff because you want them to haul all your stolen stuff. And then the one last major addition that I really want to push in this game is the use of shouts. Basically, while you're exploring dungeons, you'll be able to find special words of power, and then when you kill a dragon, you can unlock those words to form special attacks. These vary with a wide range of effects, including direct attack abilities like being able to breathe fire, or doing things like slow time or make animals friendly for a period of time. It adds an interesting little extra layer to how combat works. The only problem with it is that if you find a particular shout you really like to use, you need to explore the game a lot in order to find all the relevant words of power, because it's not just a clear straight line of, oh, I found this word so I know where to find the next one. It's basically just the luck of your exploration or looking it up online. Now, while the game is awesome for the most part, it does have the one reoccurring problem with all Bethesda games, and that's bugs. I have had the game freeze on me a couple times. I've had things happen where my face disappears, or a corner of the room is missing so I can walk through it and just fall into oblivion. But that aside, there's nothing too horribly game-breaking. I've heard stories of some people having a few issues, but my playthroughs, which have lasted several hours, haven't come across anything horribly game-breaking. Just have to be very careful sometimes if you see a wall that isn't actually there. Overall, Skyrim is an excellent game, definitely worth checking out for those of you who are fans of the old games. If you're a little worried about how they simplified things, trust me, the way the quests and the setting itself has worked makes it all worth it. And for those of you that haven't tried the series before, this is actually an excellent starting point, as the simplification of skills makes it a lot easier just to jump right into the action and just get into the experience right away, rather than having to read up on what every single stat does and how to properly power level your character. Honestly, I could rant much more about the game that would make this a much longer review that I'm not sure all of you would want to end up watching. Honestly, just check it out for yourselves. You're going to see that it's awesome. For me, as it stands currently, it's my game of the year. We'll see if that changes as more releases come out and I have a little more time to reflect on each of them, but it's definitely worth checking out for anyone. That's our review for Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. If you guys haven't gotten a chance yet, make sure to check out our latest 2 vids. As always, guys, thanks for checking out our channel, and if you want to be extra awesome, make sure to hit that like button, and I'll see you guys next time.